Shalom, giving all honor, all praise, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Marachak, Wadash. Double honors to the elder apostles and bishops of the great millstone that rule well. And as always, peace, blessings, and salutations unto the tabernacle of David, the hopeful elect, scattered abroad across the four winds of the earth. Yeah, these devils, they really think that removing slave exhibits, taking down the imagery, monuments of, the atrocities and the genocide, and the oppression, of Jacob, by their own doing. They really believe that just removing the imagery means that it erases everything. As if, if you just take it all away and erase it, it didn't happen. So the history just erases itself just by you taking down some, images. But that's not how it works. Your ancestors did the crime, and they left you with the reproach. So you got to do the time. All right, prepare slaughter for their children, for the iniquity of their fathers. And it hasn't, stopped with what happened in history, because look at what's happening today. Still going on. This immigration thing, it's just in modern form. You coming after the tribes, the northern tribes. And, you're coming after some of the southern kingdom too. But more focus is on the northern tribes. And we all know what it's all about. You Edomites, your population has been suffering. It's been in decline. You're not being fruitful and multiplying like we do. Despite, all the devices against us, the oppression against us. When we was in ancient Egypt and the Egyptians put hell on us, all we did was multiply. And they got, afraid, and they had to take counsel among themselves, because, they were concerned that if, we were to become more and mightier than them, we would join their enemies and overtake them. And I'm sure these devils are frightened by, this ministry, of course, where you got, brothers and sisters of all the tribes are being, gathered together, which the prophecy said that we would be gathered by the word of the Holy One from the east to the west. All right. So, we're in that time, and, Esau does not like that idea of being outnumbered and being the minority. All these dog whistles from Elon Musk and these white supremacists. And now they're putting it into action. Okay. So anyway, you can remove this as if it didn't happen, but you're still guilty. Even through the actions that you're doing today against these people. But anyway, let's play this segment right here.
We're seeing dismantling several plaques which told the stories of the 9 enslaved people who lived in the president's house and were owned by George Washington.
The removals come after an order last year from President Trump directing national park staff to flag any displays seen as disparaging to America's past.
Action News reporter Corey Davis is.
And they also want to remove, certain significant Jake history where, a lot of the Jakes that fought in the war that got honored for fighting their wars, they're removing that as well. You know what I mean? This is all modern so-called whitewashing that they're trying to do. Okay, so you really do have a white supremacist in office, and everybody that's in it under him and his administration and everybody that supports him, you know, they definitely are white supremacists. Okay, and you could just see that energy. You know, why the sudden erase of history? Why all the resurging arguments and ideas of scientific racism, you know, being spewed forth, you know, all throughout X, aka Twitter, social media. All right, you know, placing blame on Jake as the reason why, you know, we having this societal breakdown. You know, they're not blaming the international bankers who's breaking this society down. They're going to shift the blame on Jacob, which is cowardly. But it's all good because we're at the end. All right, your world is pretty much ending. All right, and this is how it's going to fall. And you're divided too. All right, you like that dream that the Jake had. I did a lesson on yesterday when he described the war that was going on. He said he saw whites killing whites. He saw blacks killing blacks. He saw blacks killing whites, whites killing blacks. So the Lord's going to stir that spirit up, civil war. So you Edomites all are not going to be on the same page. You're divided worldwide. You know, NATO can't get along with you. The EU can't get along with the European Union countries can't get along, can't agree. Over here, you conservatives and you liberals, you know, y'all divided up. You got governors and mayors going against, you know, the president. You know, it's a mess. But this is all part of the sign that your world is ending. And matter of fact, let me grab this. You know, you've had the world in your fingertips for a while. You know, rejoice and be glad. You dominated. You did your thing. Now it's time for all that pomp to be brought down. Job 20 and 4-5. And it says, knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? You know, so, you know, you had your time, and now you it's time for you to fall. Okay? Your victory over us, even though it seemed like it was a very long journey, a long ride, at least for us. But in the grand scheme of things, you know, 1,000 years is as one day to the Lord. So really, this was short. And now you're about to go into perdition for everything that you have done and is continuing to do. All right. So let me let's go back to this.
This is Live at the Site with reaction to a move that is making national headlines this morning. Corey.
Not only on a good morning, that lawsuit is 144 pages long. The city of Philadelphia suing the Trump administration, arguing that the federal government was not allowed to remove the exhibit honoring the lives of those 9 people enslaved by President George Washington. Their names, however, are still engraved out here at the site, but any indication of who they were or what their lives were like have been removed. The panels here are now gone. So this site here is what is the president's house. It was the president's house where President George Washington and at the time...
See, and we know that them doing that is really they just trying to remove the shame, all right, of the guilt of the actions of their forefathers, all right? They're trying to remove all guilt. They don't want to be reminded of their heinous, wicked, evil past, you know, because your past follows you. Sirach 41. And I'm going to start at verse 5. It says, the children of sinners are abominable children, and they that are conversant in the dwelling of the ungodly. And they're known as the border of wickedness. In Malachi, was it the first chapter? Esau is the border of wickedness. So they're clearly children of sinners. It says the inheritance of sinners' children shall perish, and their posterity shall have a perpetual reproach. All right, so they got to bear, the shame of the deeds of their fathers, man, which they're still to this day reaping the benefit. All right, but now that they're starting to lose some of the privileges, all right, because the powers that be, they're dukes, the oligarchs, they're not sharing the wealth with everybody. So they're stressing and they're going through it, and they need somebody to blame. So why not blame who we've been oppressing this whole time? The easier target, Jake. So you're suffering reproach. It says to address someone in a way as to express disapproval or disappointment. And down here it says the expression of disapproval or disappointment, rebuke, reproof. And they have to be forced to be reminded of the history. All right, and that's something that you can't undo. And we leave it to these devils, man, just like they did after the Dark Ages with the Renaissance. They wanted to erase that history, that it was Jake that ruled throughout Europe, that ruled, Africa, that ruled Russia, that ruled. It was a long period of time where Jake was dominating. All right, the popes, the early popes was Jake. And we was the ones that was civilizing the world, but they erased all that. Then they committed what you call iconoclasm, where they defaced the images. Is that Job 9 and 24? The earth is given into the hands of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judges thereof. If not, where and who is he? And that's a fact. All right? Because you came with this Renaissance art, these frescoes and mosaics and all that, and then didn't take it to heart that we still got icons. The catacombs. You got the Russian icons. Earlier last year, when Putin, he released, the icons, and it was like a bombshell. You had all the people depicted as, the saints, man. They were all people of color. They were dark skinned in those images. All those saints, man. The images of the Lord, the apostles, angels, they were all dark brown skin in the images, in the icons. And Esau over here it was melting, man. He was having meltdowns about that, hating, because that's the natural hatred that they have for Jake. Anyway, it says, the children will complain of an ungodly father because they shall be reproached for his sake. And we as a nation went through that. We suffered under the curses because of, our forefathers. And we had to do our time. And now we're getting ready to be released. All right, like it says in Lamentation, let's go there real quick. Our iniquity is almost about up. Lamentation 4. And I'll start at 21. It says, rejoice and be glad, O daughter of Edom, that dwellest in the land of Uz. The cup also shall pass through unto thee. Thou shalt be drunken, and thou shalt make thyself naked. The punishment of thine iniquity is accomplished, O daughter of Zion. He will no more carry thee away into captivity. He will visit thine iniquity, O daughter of Edom. he will discover thy sins. So you can try to erase what was done by taking down images and monuments and things of that such, removing everything that reminds you of what y'all done. But our iniquity is accomplished, and the Lord's getting ready to put everything into judgment. A reckoning is pretty much pending, all right? Because it talks about the controversy of Zion. This is the reason why the Lord's, he's going to stir up war between all the nations, bring y'all into Armageddon, because he's getting ready to subdue all of you. All right, and you devils, you're at the bullseye of that judgment. Okay. That's why when you go into Isaiah 34th chapter, all the nations are going to get judged, but Esau is the main factor. When it says that his sword shall be bathed in heaven and shall come down upon all Idumea, and they that are cursed to judgment. That's because your iniquities, it caught up with you. Get this. Let me try to find it. Proverbs 5:22. It says, his own iniquity shall take the wicked himself, and he shall be holden with the cords of his sins. All right. So let's go back to that in Lamentation. So this is what's getting ready to happen with E. So E, get everything off, man. The last little moments you got, get it all off. Because you about to pay dearly. That they're regulating the internet, so they're monitoring, what we say and what we post. They're going to come for us for, speaking up. But, we're confident because we know that the Lord's getting ready to make moves. As soon as you make yours, the Lord's going to make his. Lamentation 4 and 22 in the NLT, it says, "O beautiful Jerusalem, your punishment will end. You will soon return from exile." We've been in exile for hundreds of years, for shit over a half a century. It's like not century, millennium. All right. But Edom, your punishment is just beginning. And your women don't want to deal with you anymore. They divorcing you. Your house is divided. They coming along to Jake. They got more, it's all bad. You're divided. Your country's in shambles. The world is looking at you with embarrassment. All the other countries don't like you. You're being made smaller among the heathen and greatly despised. It's just all beginning. It says, soon your many sins will be exposed. And you exposing yourself by, taking these down. This only makes matters worse for you. If you ain't got nothing to be ashamed of, then what was the issue of having those slave exhibits up? You gonna go to more of the museums too? You gonna have everything taken down, huh? All those monuments of all those Jakes down south that got lynched. You gonna put something into law to have that removed too? Everything is still online, man. All right. All the history is still there, man. Even going back a couple of years ago when you had that movie Leave the World Behind, and that scene where there was like a map of the country, and there was a bunch of QR codes, on the map, on the U.S. map, and on those QR codes, you was able to go like scan them, and it would actually bring up actual sites where racial basically race crimes were committed. Okay, where certain atrocities were done. All right, we can't forget about the what happened even post slavery. All right, Jim Crow days, and even before that, where Jake was they had all these towns and cities where they was setting up their own communities, and they was living self-sufficient, segregated, and you devils hated it, so laws were written into place to remove that. Jake couldn't hold it down anymore. You had redlining, denial of loans, because Esau was being outpaced in the job force. Jake was taking all the jobs. So Esau was mobbing into these cities and with violence and taking them. And they turned certain cities into lakes. And they burned and bombed certain cities, Tulsa being one of the notable ones. So all this is still hanging over your head. So you can take down some pictures, but that doesn't erase what was done.
Vice President John Adams conducted business before the White House was ready, but there is no indication of what this site was like anymore. The slave quarters are still visible down there at the moment, but once again, tourists don't know what this was. All of the paneling and everything have been taken down.
Were seen just.
Yeah, and these devils seem happy to be taking it down too. Like, we finna get our white America back, and we ain't gonna have no shame. We ain't gonna even think about what was done. We don't care to know anymore. We're tired of the reproach. But this is, hey, if only you devils really knew, man. Let me get this in 2 Ezra 6. And I'm gonna start at verse 18. And right now, we're in the time of the visitation of the Lord. All right, all this extreme weather, all this turmoil, all the chaos, because the Lord's getting ready to turn up. It says, and it said, behold, the days come that I will begin to draw nigh and to visit them that dwell upon the earth, and will begin to make inquisition of them, what they be that have hurt unjustly with their unrighteousness, and when the affliction of Zion shall be fulfilled, and when the world that shall begin to vanish away shall be finished, then will I shew these tokens. The books shall be opened before the firmament, and they shall all see together. So the Lord's going to make that inquisition. All right, because you definitely hurt. You afflicted Zion unjustly. Your anger did tear perpetually. You pursued your brother with the sword. All right. So because of your violence against Jacob, shame shall cover thee, as it is written. Obadiah verse 10. And that inquisition says, inquisition, a period of prolonged and intensive questioning or investigation. Okay. You can't hide anything from the Lord. The Lord said he will not at all acquit the wicked. And he knows those who would try to cover or hide their sin. You can't hide the sins of your fathers, man. 2 Ezra 16. Yes, Second Ezra 16-61, it says, He made man and put his heart in the midst of the body and gave him breath, life, and understanding. Yea, and the spirit of the almighty power, which made all things, and searcheth out all hidden things in the secrets of the earth. Surely he knoweth your inventions and which you think in your heart, and even them that sin and would hide their sin. Therefore have the Lord exactly searched out all your works, and he will put you all to shame. And Esau he can't bear that. He's being found out, and that's why he's coming down with wrath. You know, when you're guilty, and you know you got witnesses that's testifying against you constantly, it's gonna anger you. It's gonna, you know, get you rowdy. Okay, but he's in that spirit of, you know, I'm not guilty, even though he clearly did it. The evidence, you're trying to basically get rid of the evidence. You know, you're trying to erase the evidence. So you're guilty as charged. Let me get this in Psalm 109 and 14. And it says, Let the iniquity of his fathers be remembered with the Lord, and let not the sin of his mother be blotted out. Let them be before the Lord continually, that he may cut off the memory of them from the earth. And that's definitely going to happen, you know, at some point, you know, when we are in our dominion under Yahushua Mashiach, you know, under the Most High Yahweh. They're going to serve their 1,000-year sentence. And then after that, verse 18 in Obadiah is going to happen, and we're going to get rid of them. Okay? You know, we're going to cut off their posterity, cut off, you know, that they can't continue, right? It says, because that he remembered not to shew mercy, but persecuted the poor and needy man, that he might even slay the broken in heart. So, yeah, fuck them, okay? So, you know, you can try to erase this all you want, but the Lord said he requires that which is past. Let me get that and we'll end. Ecclesiastes 3, verse 15. And it says, that which have been is now, and that which is to be have already been, and the Most High requireth that which is past. So, yeah, you devils, you're not going to escape your judgment. You're not going to go unpunished. You're going to drink of the cup that we drink. So, yeah, you know, because they wouldn't do this to a Holocaust museum. Nowhere in the world would they do that. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, it's definitely hypocrisy. And Esau is basically just trying to erase the shame. But shame is going to cover you either way, because you're guilty. So I'm going to end on that note. I'm going to give all honor, all praise, and glory to Yahweh Shem Yahushua. Until the next one, Shalom.
In Philadelphia or everywhere?